Forms of 1 are any mathematical expression that's equal to 1. Now, typically when we create a form of 1, we do it as a fraction. So we could have 2 over 2, we could have 3 over 3, 4 over 4, 10 over 10, 27 over 27, 1.5 over 1.5, x over x, or even 3/7 over 3/7. The one thing that we need when we create a form of 1 is the numerator to be the same amount as the denominator. The benefit to forms of 1 is that if we multiply or divide by a form of 1, we're going to end up with a product or a quotient that is the same amount as our original number, but looks different from our original number. Let's take a look at some examples. So let's start with the fraction 2/3. If I multiply this by a form of 1, which I'm going to put a red giant 1 around just to emphasize that it's a form of 1, we can multiply by any form of 1. Today I'm just going to choose 4 over 4. And our product will end up being the same amount. So 2 times 4 is 8, and 3 times 4 is 12. So since we multiplied by 1, this amount is the same amount as that. But because this is a form of 1, it looks different. But they're really the same. And if we reduce this, we just reduce it back to 2/3. So 2/3 and 8/12 are exactly the same. Let's look at another one. Let's say we had 5/6. So I could multiply 5/6 by some form of 1 and change it so that it looks different, but it's still the same amount. And for this one, let's choose 2 over 2. So now 5 times 2 is 10, and 6 times 2 is 12. And hopefully you've seen what I've done here, that I have used forms of 1 to change both of these fractions so that they have the same denominator. And this could be the use of forms of 1 to change fractions so that they have the same denominator. We can also divide by forms of 1. So if I had 8/12, I could divide this by a form of 1. Now whatever I choose, I'm going to want to make sure that it's something that goes into both 8 and 12. So we could choose 4 over 4, and now 8 divided by 4 is 2, and 12 divided by 4 is 3. And so 8/12 is the same as 2/3, because something divided by 1 will be the same amount as what we started with. Likewise, I could take 10/12 and divide it by a form of 1. This time we'll go 2 over 2, since 2 goes into both 10 and 12. And so I get 5/6, and 5/6 therefore must be the exact same thing as 10/12. Another form of 1 that's particularly helpful is 100%. Because when I multiply by it, it's going to keep my number the exact same amount, but a percent sign will tag along to the answer. So if I take a number like 3 and multiply that by 100%, well, 3 times 100 is 300, and the percent sign tags along to the answer. So 3 is the same as 300%. and we've just changed my whole number into a percentage. Likewise, I could take something like 0.27 and multiply that by 100%. Now, 0.27 times 100, well, 100 will move the decimal 2 times, so once, twice, so that'll make that just a whole number 27, and the percent sign tags along to the answer. And so we see 0.27 is exactly the same as 27%. And one last example here. If I do 2/5 times 100%, whatever my answer is will be exactly the same as 2/5. Now with this, I'm going to want to do an extra step and change my percentage, my 100%, into 100% over 1. Now if we multiply, 2 times 100 is 200, and the percent sign tags along. And in the denominator we have 5 times 1 is 5, and then fractions mean division, so 200 divided by 5 is 40, and the percent sign tags along. So 2/5 is the same as 40%.